crop, so I had to turn it off. Oh. Don't want to be there, I want to be in the truck. There we go. So get that out of the way. And we'll do this bit. It's good enough. All right. I guess I could go up the side and have it do the edge first. And off you go. Okay, how's the truck? The truck is not full. We were having issues somewhere with him. Okay. Oh, I still find using this to be a challenge. Okay. Gentle turns, it works, but it's because the working point is quite a distance behind the pivot point on the tank. So it's not very easy to control it. Fifoofin, welcome to the stream and thanks for the follow. Right, and that's true for the in-game tractors. The problem I was finding with some of the mod tractors I was using, it didn't matter whether I put standard or row crop tyres on, it crushed the crop. Which was a bit of a shame. I'm not using any of those tractors anymore, I think for the most part, apart from the Axions here, which you can't put row crop tyres on anyway. And the Zerion. Most of the rest of the tractors I'm now running are in-game. The Hurliman, the Massey Ferguson and the Valtra. This section to do. I think this is the last field we have to do with this. So that's a good thing. Of course the chaff wagon's probably full again. In some ways this is like flying a plane, very gentle adjustments. And you'll get most of the effect you desire. the pivot point is between those two rear wheels on the trailer, and obviously there's a fair distance between that point and the cultivator. I'm not going to use up all the digestate, so that's a good thing. Don't know how much we've got left in the tank though at the BGA. Okay, that's done. We can fold that. And that needs to go back to the cow farm. Then so does the seeder, so we'll take them both together. Put past there. I've made a mistake in the past of parking the tractor there and then suddenly needing to get by it. Okay. Right, we'll close this gate. And plant some more wheat. Yay. Oh, you think you've completed? Okay then. We'll do it the hard way, shall we? Maybe that'll work. And off he goes. And you're full. Of course you are. Get there. Oh. Oh. And don't hit the header. As close as it'll go. So yeah, some of the tractors I was using. Oh, I was using the T6 4-cylinder, T6 6-cylinder, and let's take the 4-cylinder one. You've got the wheel set up. Narrow tyres 1.5 metre, 1.8 metre. So I would stick those on, and these are not, don't respect the crop destruction. So you end up ripping up crop like you're using huge grade tyres. And I used that T6 for quite a while. And at that point I just turned up crop destruction, because while I was still respecting the crop destruction rules at the time, and just saying, oh, to heck with it, I'll turn crop destruction on but off, but I'll use narrow wheels on that tractor when I'm using it. Oh, you're too close. Okay. Yeah, while I was using the T6, it was just a case of, oh, I'll just it's more hassle than it worked. Now it's at the point where I try not to drive on the crop, but every so often it's sort of, I can't be bothered to extract the harvester from where it is so that I can pull the trailer up to the pipe. So I'm just going to drive on the crop a little bit to get that done. I mean, obviously when I'm playing offline, I'll generally do that because it's not taking time out of moving on the story, but yeah, it's like I can spend hours loading bales onto the back of a flatbed, but I don't really want to spend an 2-hour session streaming where all I do is load the flatbed up. So I tend to, at least now, make heavy use of workers, so the workers can be doing a lot of stuff and all I'm doing is finishing off the tasks they find a little bit difficult. And then I do an awful lot of this, driving from one place to another with stuff. Okay. Down the middle, down the left. How are we doing? 390. Ooh. I still have to compact both of these, but I'll probably do that offline as well. May do a little bit once we're done carting all of this. Once we're done carting the entirety of that field, I'm going to take a break from chaff carting. We'll get everything set up for the next field. I did discover for Farm Sim 17 you can forage corn when the crop's wet. You can also harvest potatoes and sugar beets when the crop's wet. I know for a fact you can't harvest potatoes or sugar beets in Farm Sim 19 when the crop's wet. I think because of the way the harvesters work, you probably should be able to, because with things like potatoes and sugar beets, you're effectively lifting a layer of dirt and then it goes through the mesh on the bottom of the harvester to shake off all the dirt back onto the ground again. Now with a regular harvester you don't want wet crop going into it, because that will generally seize up the harvester, and that would be considered probably a bad thing and an expensive thing to rectify. So looks about right. Off you go. Yeah, I did start, the first year I did chaff harvesting, I was using this thing, which is kind of what we've got, but with its own sort of collection thing on the back. The problem is I found it slides. So when a truck pulled up alongside to unload it, the back end would slide away from the truck, and you'd stop tipping, and that was annoying. So I looked for another solution, and this suggested itself. So it's what I do now. Okay, this is not going to be a full load. Is going to be sufficient. So the field is done. Yay. So I'll move all of this off this field. Probably time for a little change of stuff. I'll actually fold in the pipe and fold up the header. And very carefully not take off the paintwork on the truck. Yeah, I think in all my usage of a forage harvester, this isn't ideal, but it does work for a single player playthrough. With multiplayer, obviously, you can just have tractors pull up alongside with a large tipper. Where are they? Yeah, come alongside with something like this. And a big tractor, and you can have a bunch of players just permanently servicing your forage harvester. But auger wagons don't take chaff. Now some of the mods might. That one doesn't. That's part of the horse pack. That's the corn mill CCM. Yeah, so you can't run chaff through a. What about those auger wagons? Because that's the AR auger. That one can use chaff, but I've got both of mine as seed and fertilizer tenders, so they're not going to work for me. Okay, so we're going to dump this at the BGA. And this field is done. Probably going to have to move this all into that field just to the south of us. Make room for the cultivator. Oh, I didn't check. Or did I? Yeah, this field doesn't need ploughing, so I can just cultivate that one. That's good. I'm going to need to take this truck down to the main farm. Once we're done carting here. Drive on the wrong side, yay. Alright, here we are again. That looks like a time for a middle run. Ugh. Actually building up the compaction somewhat. Okay, 490,000 litres. And how much do we have in the digestate tank left? %41%. So we have used about 120% capacity on that tank. So about 1 million litres of digestate has been used, planting the fields we've done so far. We still have some of our biggest fields left to do. Okay. Whoa, slow, 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 slow. Okay, so I still need this trailer. Okay, back to the main yard. Drive through the corn. Yeah. It's a bit of a shame that New Holland didn't work out. I mean, there were a couple of reasons it didn't work out. One was it didn't have enough horsepower. And we have the small Hurleman. Is it the T4 IXM or something like that? The larger of the two Hurlemans. The one that didn't make it into Farm Sim 19. As a Giants mod, and actually turns out to be one of the starting tractors on this farm, which I hadn't realised. And then we have that small Massey Ferguson there, and for the most part I'm using them on either bale wrappers or on-field fertilisation sprayers and spreaders, and then just puttering around the yard feeding animals. And they're perfectly adequate for that job. I don't need a big tractor for that. I then have one mid-sized tractor, the Valtra T, I think it is, and that replaced the New Holland. What are we doing there? Well, that's kind of empty. And then we have everything else is 380 horsepower plus the two Axions and the Zerion. And those three tractors pull the bulk of the work around the farm. The Valtra is big enough to run the baler. Usually one of the Axions will run the mowing kit. A little bit more. Oh, I can't tell. That'll do. So, and that's almost empty too. Well, still 9,000 litres. It's more than enough, more than what we need. I started this sort of setup back when I was playing, I want to say Chellington. There was one field that was a long way from the farm, and the seeder I had wasn't big enough to seed the entire field in one go, and didn't carry enough fertilizer to fertilize the field in one go, and the tractor usually ran out of diesel as well. So I ended up touring with a tanker and a couple of seed and fertilizer refill units, just so that I could complete the field in one go without having to drive all the way across the map to the farmyard to refill everything and then back again. Okay, here we are. On-field refueling, because I really don't know that I've got enough fuel to do all of that field, and we still have the field down in the cow yard that needs finished off. That's a slow pump. Okay, time to check on stuff. What's the seeder doing? The seeder's still going. Okay, get myself oriented. Okay, so we're past the gate, so we've just got a tiny bit left to do. Then we'll have to tidy up when it's done. So this we can take back to the cow yard. We're going to need to bring those tanks back as well. Oh, the Zerian's out at the BGA. It's also handy to keep a couple of small tractors around, because they are, because of their short wheelbase, they've got a better turn radius, which makes it easier to put some of this big stuff away. I'm not going to haul a cultivator, 12-metre cultivator with a tiny tractor, but just hauling it around the yard, preparing it, putting it away, works quite well. These tractors don't quite a long wheelbase and don't turn very quickly. So there's all our chaff ready to cover up for the cow feed. This is done with until spring. So it's not a bad piece of kit. I think the deficiency on it is a small tank, and it's only got 6 metre working width. So while you're doing 2 jobs in one pass, it's kind of restricting. Should work. close to the wall. Okay. Not the easiest of sheds to get into. Camera angle. No, I'm going to have to get out to look at that. Go back a couple of feet. Okay. And where it is.